This is Gus with Anora, and you're watching the Chat with Chaps live show.
Good evening and welcome to the Chat with Chaps Midweek live show. I'm your host, Joe Zampa, and you may have seen the title of this show. Our special guest today is the one and only Nick Hart. So we will bring him out in a second out of the green room. Before we go to Nick, I wanted to introduce our fantastic panelists tonight, this evening. First up, a man who doesn't need Google because Google needs him. The human Millwall encyclopedia himself, Stato Stephen. How you doing, Stephen?
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. I like that. Thanks, Joe. No, I'm good. I hope you boys are all well. I haven't been on for a little while. I've been very manic and away and all that jazz. Not a lot's happened though, really, is there? So hopefully now things are starting to change. But as always, there's always things to talk about, and I'm sure Nick will be good value when he's ready to join us.
Absolutely, and they don't call you a fair weather podcaster for nothing to do, Steve. You only come when there's news. And then underneath yourself, again, someone who's been missing for a little while. His passion for Millwall. If it was a crime, this guy was serving life without parole. It's the one, the only Sicilian godfather, Angelo Miliotto. How you doing, Angelo?
Yeah, very well, mate. Nice to be back on, Joe. You all right?
Yes,
okay,
I'm
mate?
good, mate. It's been too long, mate. I don't know where you've been hiding, but
Well,
I'm glad
yeah,
you're on tonight.
Yeah, lost my place, mate. Been in the reserves, you know. Yeah.
You got to earn your place back in the team now, haven't you, Angelo? What can I say?
Yeah.
You got to earn your place back in the team again, haven't you? You guys excited for today's special guest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've known Nick for a while, so he's so highly respected by all Millwall fans. So it's going to be really good to have him on.
Absolutely. Let's not keep him waiting any longer. So. Obviously, this guy, he's seen it all, he's said it all, and somehow he survived it all. The man who made podcasts cool before they were cool. And if you ever sat in the firing line under the den in Burshit Corner, you would hear the voice beneath the pigeons. The founder of the Upton Millwall podcast, the podfather himself, Mr. Nick Hart. How you doing, Nick?
Well, what an intro, Joe. Thank you, mate. I've been in the green room, viewers, but there's no drinks in there. I was hoping to get pished and come on here and say something outrageous. Big thank you for that intro there, Joe. Nice to see you all, boys. Good to see you, Steve. Good to see you, Angelo. Thank you for having me.
Just on that, Joe, you've done some real hard yards on those intros. You've put in the proper prep work for those, haven't you? I put a bit of graft in. I can't lie. I've done a bit of legwork into this one this evening, as you always do when you've got a special guest on the show. You've got to make a bit of an effort, haven't you, I suppose, you know. But Nick, let me let you into a little secret. Obviously, you know Angelo. He's done a lot of voice recordings for you over the years.
Mainstay of the
really
show.
Good. Really good, which is reason probably why I first liked him, because I like listening to his voicemails and stuff. But Stephen's a bit of a fanboy, Nick. I don't know if you knew that at all, but he's a big fan of yours over the years, and he took the picture down behind and replaced it with another picture, but normally got a picture of you there as well. So, Stephen, how do you feel? How do you feel meeting your idol?
This is like the OG podcaster. It's like it's time for me to get tips and learn from, as you called him, the podfather. But no, seriously, and I know obviously we're not trying to embarrass anybody, but guys, obviously Nick is fantastic at what he does, and it's really, really cool that we can get him on and do a show with us. So get your questions in. Make sure you get your questions in for him.
This is all very common. Just to let the viewers in on something, I don't deal with praise very well, so I don't know what to say.
All right, you're rubbish. You're rubbish.
That's more like Millwall, isn't it?
Get your praises in the chat. Get your praises in the chat, guys. And like Stephen said, get your questions in, and we will do a Q&A with Nick right at the very end, and we'll make sure we save this for later. So, first of all, through the front door is Paul, Nick, Millwall podcast legend. There you go, Nick. Evening, Jeff, friend of the show. Hope you're well, mate. Carl, evening. Hope you're well. Tommy, good to see you. Jeff Cook, how are you, mate? Discos, mate. Andrew Cahill, good to see you. Where are we? Just skip one there. So, and Jesper, fellow panelists. Unfortunately, he can't make it tonight. He's breastfeeding this evening. You, Jesper. John, MFC, evening, chaps. How are you? Barry, good evening. Cannot wait till season fixtures release this Thursday. Absolutely, us as well. Alex S, bang on time. Evening, fellas. First to cricket now. What time to be alive? Matt Richards, how are you, mate? Evening, chaps. Evening, Nick. Connor, Hughesy, good evening. Chris Brown, good evening. Just waiting for the American football to start. Dan Clements, good for you to join us. PS, good to see you. Oscan, good to have you over. Bendoviva, good evening. God, it's full out.
Bendo, that's a different show.
I tell you. I reckon Nick might have something to do. There's 110 of you in the chat already.
My word.
Dave
My
Turner. Good to see you. Benji, I can't help but feel, guys, they're all for Nick, not for us. Richard, good for you to join us. Craig, just finishing off, England finished off India, the test match, just in time. Good stuff, Craig. Mars Edwards, good evening. Dave Turner, Born Free, Die Free. Martin Edwards. And the lovely, the Roslins in there as well. Still got a couple more. Luke, hello. Ben Deliva said, huge welcome to Nick. Thanks for that, Ben DeVita. Mark Murphy, good evening. Sam, so what do we make of our first signing? Right, guys, that is it. Whew, Jesus. God,
wow.
Break after that.
Wow.
If only we were that professional, we could go to an ad break. That'd be so good. Just give a bit of a time to recover. But anyway, let's start with Nick, our special guest. Nick, obviously, you've been doing podcasts and media stuff for a number of years. I think you even done things on the radio, didn't you? Go back a few years. You saying,
yeah.
Could you just tell us how Uptown Millwall came about and what was your motivation behind sort of starting it?
Well, I used to, viewers might not know, but I used to produce, write and print a fanzine, actual physical fanzine. It was called, originally No One Likes Us, and then we had to change the title for various reasons to CBL magazine. So I used to stand outside the ground selling the fanzines, very kind of old school, traditional football fanzine. And then about, what was it? I suppose I've been doing it for about 12 years now, one way and the other. A name that many people will know, and I'm not going to say any more than his name, which is Ant Meads, came up to me one day and said, would you ever consider doing a podcast with me? I said, I don't know what a podcast is, Ant. You know, what is that? And of course, it turned out to be like a radio interview, only on the internet. So we started doing a regular post-match review on a Sunday morning. Just back then it was a Skype call, and we'd record that and put it out as a podcast. And that had been about 2012, 2013. For reasons too deep to go into here, Ant fell away, and it was kind of, I just thought, well, shall I carry on doing this? People seem to enjoy listening to these post-match reviews, and it's kind of evolved from there, really, Joe. So that had been about 2012-ish, so it's been going now for a long while, one way or the other. And it's basically me murmuring into my iPhone during the game. I think some people like it, some people don't like it. And then we do the post-match conversations, and then increasing last 2 years, one of my favourite bits is where people send in the voicemails, like Angelo does and others, and that makes a really nice chance to get other viewpoints on the show. So it's kind of evolved over the years, one way and the other. I've always said, as long as I enjoy doing it, I'll carry on doing it, and I can say at the moment I enjoy doing it. So looking forward to the new season. And well, you know, the same format. I've toyed with the idea of doing what you boys do here with the video calls, but my heart's not really in it. I like the sound only approach. It's much easier, and, and you don't have this kind of nervous breakdown live stream business. I can record it and edit it, and
or problems with headphones or audio going wrong, and that's usually Disco Steve's not here tonight, so we're okay. We're safe.
Nick,
Go on, Steve.
Sorry, can I just ask you there on that? So when you say if you enjoy it, you'll carry on. If you don't enjoy it, that you won't. Do you feel sometimes that you watch games slightly differently because you're doing your podcast or because you're recording your voice, or do you still watch the games as you would if you wasn't doing it? Is there a difference, do you think?
I think I've got so used to waffling away into my phone now, Steve. I'm not sure I could actually watch a football game straight anymore. You know, I'll probably be talking to myself but not recording it. I suppose what I try and do is whatever goes through my head, and it can be some pretty weird and way out stuff at times. Sometimes related to the game, sometimes not so much. I try and just let it flow out, and if I think afterwards it's half amusing or it's got some form of insight, I'll keep it. I edit loads out. I mean, this is what people don't really know. This is the beauty of recording. You can edit all the stupid stuff that you've come out with, and then people think you're some kind of intellectual afterwards, when actually 90% of it is crap. You know, I only keep the good bits. I don't know but no, I mean, do you know what, Steve? I don't actually think I'm a particularly great football pundit. I listen to other people on the TV stream. I listen to Max and to Carl doing their stuff, and I'm not sure I could do that really, because I don't know if I've got the depth of understanding of the game that others often portray. I'm always going off on tangents and talking about Cold Blow Lane in 1972, or the factory chimney over the back, or the fact you can see Canary Wharf. You know.
It's funny you say it. We asked Cole last week, he was on the show. We asked him, would you ever consider a fan coming on, doing a commentary of your one game? He was like, nope, not having that. He's such a perfectionist. He doesn't want anything going wrong. So the chance of any of us going on there, we've got no chance.
No, the thing is, in a moment of excitement, are you going to be biased? Number one, because you're watching Millwall and you want that goal to be disallowed, or you want that foul that you know has been an obvious foul, but you want it not given or whatever. And second, you're probably going to swear a lot as well. So that doesn't lend itself to a professional TV channel. So I kind of understand that,
As I say, mate. Sorry, mate. I was going to ask you. So, with the podcast scene, when you first came on the podcast scene and you launched it back in, was it the 1940s? Were there any other? Were there any other podcast, Millwall podcasts around, or was you like the first? Would you say?
No, I wouldn't claim to be quite the first. There used to be an actual radio program, and going back to the early 2000s, there used to be an FM radio station. I think it broadcast out of Thamesmead, and they used to have a Millwall show on there, which was run by Jules Lampy and the Millwall Supporters Club at the time. And I think that still continues on as No One Likes Us Talking. That's that show. And I think they sometimes go back onto a radio station or an internet stream station. But I don't know of anyone else that was quite doing what we did when Ant suggested it, because their show is a different format to what we were doing, and where I've taken it over time. So I think others have probably followed in our wake a little bit, but I don't know of any others off the top of my head. The radio station was there before us, though, so that kind of gave me a clue that the modern technology allows you to do stuff. So I definitely
feel you kind of paved the way, because you starting it, and then lots of other podcasts, brought out their channels, us included, and they've all got their own kind of way of doing things, which is everyone's slightly different in what they give in their approach. But I do feel that you were probably the start of it in some ways, what you did. So obviously, thank you for that. I can see why Steve is such a fanboy of yours. The relationship with Steve has got with you. It's like when Tim Cahill come back the second time with Ben Thompson. Yeah. That's what it feels like with Steve and you at the moment.
I tell you what, right? This is. I tell you what. This is. I've said this story so many times. The reason why I started on a podcast was because Joe was waffling. He was talking absolute crap on one, and I thought, you know what? I've got to phone in and I've got to talk about this, because he's just absolutely.
I forced him because he hated why I had to say so much.
It's just interesting. I find it really interesting when you talk to people that do podcasts, because outside of the Millwall bubble, but if you come out of that and you go, I sometimes do a podcast, you're talking about Millwall, and you get people going, whatever. But when you speak to other people and that do it or listen or whatever, you can tell that there's a passion behind it from all the guys that do it. It doesn't matter what channel you watch, or if you prefer Nick's content to us or Lions TV, that Millwall podcast, whatever. It's just fascinating to sort of have that understanding of why people do it, and everyone does it for their own different reasons. As I say, mine is because Joe waffles a lot. So
there you go. I'm the guy who popped his cherry somehow. But let's wrap things up. But before we move on, though, Nick, obviously we speak about official podcasts or whatever. You've been involved, obviously, in the Wall Talk last season, taking over Max McKenna, who's focusing more on his media duties with the club, and you do a lot of stuff now with Mark. Can you just tell our listeners how that came about, and what's it been like stepping in for Max in that role?
It's been really interesting. I mean, Max asked me, just to set the scene, previously it included Paul Jiggins, who obviously sadly passed away a couple of years ago. And I think Paul brought in what I might call a touch of old school Millwall knowledge, the time prior to the modern era of Millwall. And I think when Paul passed away, sadly, that was one thing that they felt they were probably lacking a little bit. They've got Byron Webster, obviously, who knows the 2016-17 period and the players at that time. Mark goes back to, I think, to the 90s. I think I might be doing him a disservice there. But I suppose to have someone that was been there since the dawn of time, as 1945, as you've said, Joe, just brings a bit of depth of knowledge about the club. And I think you can't fake that. You either know who Trevor Lee was, or you either know what Teddy Sheringham did in the 80s, or you're just reading about it. It's not quite the same. So no, I was really quite proud to be asked, and it's a nice show. I mean, I don't really. I don't keep any contacts with players. I don't really know anyone other than one or two names at the club. So it's been really interesting. I mean, we're probably going to talk about George Honeyman in this show. What a nice bloke, having met him. What a really down-to-earth, decent bloke.
I remember you doing that interview with him. It's a real good interview, wasn't it? Yeah.
Merit, everyone can talk about their merits as a footballer, where they sit in the kind of the rankings, if you want to put it that way. But what a decent bloke. And every single Millwall player that I've met on that show have been really decent blokes, and it's really been striking. I've not met anyone that I call I don't know, where you think, oh, he's a bit of an arse, that bloke, but most of them have been really solid. It's really striking. Yeah. So no, I've been really, really pleased and proud to be involved in it. Nice. I get a little bit where the Instagram questions come in. That's my little bit, and I get to ask the questions, and I think I give Mark a little flutter of the heart whenever I go off piste and start talking or ad-libbing around whatever questions I've got there. But I do try and stick to their scripts, largely speaking.
Cool, good stuff. Well, there's lots to talk about this evening, so we're going to move on. I want to come to you first, Andrew. You've been very, very quiet there, staring at the screen. So obviously, there's been lots of summer departures this year. We've seen Hutch leaving, Murray Wallace. Then it was George Saville, Liam Roberts, and then obviously now, more recently, George Honeyman. We've been told that he's moved on. What's your thoughts? Certainly more the last couple with Saville and George Honeyman moving on. I mean, are we saying goodbye to too much experience too quickly? Do you feel, in your opinion, or do you think it's the right time to kind of freshen the squad up and evolve?
Joe, can I answer that question in a minute? I just want to ask Nick one question. Is that all right, mate?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, Nick, do you still feel a little bit weird, like when you're like talking to yourself, and you got like you got the
Are you asking him for is this counselling, Angelo? He's not a counsellor. If you've got issues, and you like yourself in a room day and night. I reckon you need someone more qualified than Nick to answer that question.
I'll tell you what, this is how it works, Angelo. At the den, where I'm up in bird shit corner, for the most part, everyone around me knows that I'm the nutcase that sits and talks to him in the corner. I think most of the blokes now also have got a sense that I'm on that podcast, whether it's Wall Talk or whether it's because Wall Talk being like this, a visual show, people get to know your face a little bit. But so most at the den, it's generally no particular big deal. I'm right in the corner. I've got my deliberately go and sit in the corner so you can, if you want to talk to yourself, you can, you've got a bit of a concrete around you to talk into if you don't want to look at anyone. It can be a thing. I mean, it's an odd thing to do, and it's like you've got some kind of mental deficiency. You think you're like a commentator sitting in the corner talking to yourself. Where you get real, I have had grief, and I mean Millwall style grief, is away from home, where people don't know who you are, and they do seriously think you're there as security or old Bill or whatever. And I often say to people, I'm not old Bill. I'm not looking. I'm talking about what's going on the pitch. But people do, especially if they've had a good day out, they tend not to listen to reason sometimes, So it can be, you can get a little bit of that sometimes, and those are about the only moments I think, why am I bothering doing this? But
when he's sitting there in Birdshit corner with his microphone.
Well, I mean, so you tread a bit of a strange path with it, because you're not really. I think one of the things that are banned from Stadia are recording devices. So, but they can't ban iPhones. So you are treading a little bit of a line there. I'll probably get bubbled up now when I go away. But so you got to be a bit wary of the situation. But that's about the only time I get any grief, Angelo. But as for how do I feel, I mean, you've got to suspend your you've got to be willing to make a fool of yourself at some point in your life, and sometimes that's my method anyway. Hopefully people get to enjoy some of the live sounds there.
Do you know the bit I love the most, Nick, mate, is when you shout and scream when you score. Like, yeah, that's my favourite bit, because like you give it some welly when we score, That's great.
You have to adjust the. This is a tip for any listeners out there, any viewers. You have to adjust the gain on your microphone on your phones, otherwise it just goes into a kind of like a white noise type of sound. You have to turn it down a little bit so it can capture your yelp of joy when we score. No, I mean it's for the most part of the day no problem. Everyone knows me now pretty much, and you don't get any problems. The only time you get anything is away from home, and that's normally if you're sitting in amongst the core support who've travelled somewhere.
Okay, yeah, cool, thanks, mate. Yeah, so Joe, answering your question about the guys that are left,
yeah,
the way that I see it is, I think it's about time that great servants, obviously, yeah, that they've been brilliant for the club, but it comes to a day, it comes to a time when they have to call it a day, and I think that time is now. We was just talking before we went live, and we're talking about Saville slightly. I think Saville is the only one that I would have kept. The rest of them, Hutch's time has come up. Maybe even last season he should have gone. Murray Wallace, he's hardly any game time whatsoever. It's time for him to go. And then the two big ones were Hutch and Saville and Honeyman. And obviously there's a big thing about that Saville is the unofficial captain. He's the only one I would have kept, mate. I'm not that sad about Honeyman going, because purely just on a footballing terms, I just feel that the amount of of athletes in the Championship, Honeyman can't keep up with these athletes anymore, mate. And I would have kept Saville purely because of his leadership qualities, mate, and to be around the squad. So it's sad that they've gone that they're all gone. But I think it's a bad time, right? That's the way
I'd agree with that, Angela. I'd agree with that, mate.
Yeah. Angela. Stephen, coming to you next. What's your thoughts? Is it experience loss, or are we doing the right thing as a club moving forward, evolving, releasing these key players?
I think it's a testament to maybe what's going on behind the scenes, because perhaps under John Berylson and the previous regime, players would have just been offered a contract and it would have just rolled on and on and on, and there was a bit of a reluctant to change. There was a little bit of we'll stick to what we know. They're tried and tested. They'll get us a few points. They'll get us out of trouble, or whatever stage of the season you're at. I think this regime probably don't feel the same. They probably think, well, hold on a minute. We probably need to be looking elsewhere, maybe bringing in some younger players, Do we need as many characters in the changing room? That'll be a debate that goes on and on and on. Personally, I think I would have gone hell for leather to keep George Saville. Personally, you could have had him as what Hutch was doing this year, not maybe playing as much, or Alex Pearce in previous years, someone to guide the team through, someone to in the changing room to maybe when sometimes it's got to be a player that's got to give a bit of a bollocking, and maybe that's what Saville could have done. I tweeted earlier, and a few people sort of commented, and a few people seemed to agree with me that at the end of the season, the club was in a really, really good position. We were positive. We've got some good young players. We've got a good manager. We've got good backroom staff that are trying to make positive changes. And I still think we're in a good position just because we've lost these players. And I think we were talking about this off air. We don't know who's coming in. We could sign someone, okay, Sturge might be the next one, but who's to say, for example, and I'll name drop someone that there is no link. I know nothing about if we're going to sign this player or not. But say Jason Malumbi is the signing that we get to replace George Saville. Everyone's going to be absolutely buzzing with that. You have to see, and I hate this has come into football, trust the process, but there clearly is a process that Millwall are trying to follow at the moment. And the older players, whilst, as I say, Saville aside, I think it is the right thing. Give it 2 weeks, we could have an unbelievable transfer window, and no one cares that we've lost all experience. So I think it's just a little bit of patience required.
Okay, Nick. Obviously, Stephen sort of being optimistic here, talking about patience and waiting for the transfer window to open. I mean, you met George Honeyman. You spent a lot of time with him. He's a good guy. We know what George Saville did for us in the changing room. How good he was with the young players, and we heard Casper talking, didn't we? We did an interview once, you and I, and Casper talked about how important Saville was on the pitch and how he used to trigger the press and tell them when to press, when to sit back. And he was almost like a manager on the pitch with them, sometimes helping the guys out. What's your thoughts on that? Is it are Millwall doing the right thing, letting these guys go, or should they work a little bit harder to keep them for next season? In your opinion?
Well, one of the things I've always felt with our club is, as a club, as a support base, all of us, and I fall foul of this myself. So I'm not. I'm not saying I don't have this. We are very sentimental. We have certain players that we that have been around for a long while and get that kind of the sympathy of the crowd generally. Saville, I think, is a good player. He's not as good a player as he was a few years ago. His legs are starting to get into, I don't know what ages he is. He's over 30. I don't know how old he is.
32, I think now, isn't he?
32. There we are. So your legs at 32 are not your legs, whether you like it or not, that when you're 25, 24. When he had his big money move, he was at that stage of his career, and he's come back to us and he's done a great job. But the art of football management is to be ruthless. And unfortunately, football is not it's not a pals club. It's not where your mates should be because they're nice blokes or you get along fine with them or there's some kind of leadership quality. None of us can ever put our finger on what that leadership quality is. We hear about it, but no one's ever really defined it particularly well. There should be plenty of leaders. There should be 11 leaders in that side. So the hard part of a football manager's job is to decide when you cut a player, and George Saville is now at a time where he may be looking for a deal and a level of income the club don't feel he's worth, and it's a really cold decision. But the best teams, the very best teams, if you look at football generally, they kill their darlings at the right moment. I mean that in the sense of unloading players where you think, well, why they got rid of him? Look when Beckham left Manchester United, this great player, but it was felt to be at a point where the hill was starting to go downwards now. And, I'm not putting George Saville perhaps in the same sentence as David Beckham that I just have. But he's, I think you have to reach a judgment. And if you don't think he's worth what we're prepared to offer, then he's fully entitled to try and find that money elsewhere, which is what he's done with Luton. So I trust the process is a good expression. I trust the judgment of Alex Neil, and I trust the judgment of those that support him. I suppose Steve Gallen as well, because we've seen the evidence of it last season in that we've taken ourselves from a mid-season point where we were looking over our shoulders dreading what might be coming the second half of the season, to reaching a point where we're challenging for the playoffs with players that in some cases were seen as not having the depth of experience. We've seen what Ivanovic has done. So I think you've got to be prepared to take some hard decisions. And let's see who comes in. That's going to be the key point, of course. I'm optimistic. I've seen what this manager can do, and I was really excited by some of the football that he was getting us playing with very limited resources last season. So let's see what he can do with a better palette at his disposal.
Very, very true. And just touch on George Honeyman very quickly before we move on. Again, a bit like Saville, he's been say let go. We couldn't agree a deal with him. Is it right for us to let him go? Do you feel that he could have made a difference in our squad next season?
I mean, football's always got a place for industrious, water-carrying midfielders, and that's George Honeyman. Lovely bloke. I met him. He's a lovely bloke, but that's not the deciding factor in whether he should be in Mill starting 11 or not. It's got to be, what does he bring? What level of technique does he have? His fitness generally. I mean, he's got a great engine on him. He'll run and run and run. But then, we've had other players in the past that also have done that. We've got to start looking. If we want to aim higher than 9th, which has to be the purpose of where the club is trying to take us, this new model of finding players and then selling them to improve, that implies we've got to finish higher than 9th. And the players that we're talking about have done really well for us, but we have not gone beyond 8th in this league, and we've been in there for 9 years. That's a huge achievement for Millwall. But if there's an aim to get higher than that, we've got to start doing better than that. There's no substitute for quality, unfortunately. So I support whatever club decide to do here, and I support Saville. He's decided to get a better deal elsewhere, Joe, so he can get the money at Luton. So good luck to him.
And Honeyman too. And I guess without Honeyman. without sort of being too disrespectful to these guys, but they're not playing for another championship club, are they? There's a reason why Savills gone to Luton League One and George Honeyman going to Blackpool. They're clearly probably not at the optimal condition in their ability to play for a good championship side. And as you say, Nick, for us to move forward and evolve and really put a serious challenge for promotion, whether it be through playoffs or whatever, we need a better squad, don't we? I suppose,
It's really hard. I'd ask the other boys on the call. I mean, how many times have we all heard, someone online or in the crowd, how many times have we heard people say, well, none of our players will get into another championship level side? They're Millwall players, and they're obviously in our circumstance, but would they walk into, I don't know, a West Brom team at the top or the Sunderland team at the top, or Leeds or whatever? So we've got to start developing and finding and playing players that can compete at that very top level, and it takes some hard decisions. People, it may well be that in a month's time we'll be saying, "Oh, if only Sav was back here and we let him go." But I think he was increasingly starting to show his age a little bit in the championship.
Yeah. Well, that's it. We wish him the well. Go on, Angelo.
Yeah, can I just say, we've got a WhatsApp group, Nick, and we were talking in it earlier, and the one guy that really, really lost his head about all this experience walking out the door was actually Chris.
Yeah.
Was it?
I was hoping to get him on tonight, actually, so we could have a debate against him. And but yeah,
there's a place for
Angelo
experience.
just had a heart attack. He's so upset. Look at him. He's had a cardiac arrest at the moment. Hopefully, can someone send the paramedics round? He's gone.
But we've just given an extended contract to Danny Mack. We do have Millwall. Good news. We do have Millwall players. I mean, we've got Casper Denor and Billy Mitchell doing really well in midfield. We still have yet to see the boy Kelly. I don't really know what to say about him. I've not really seen enough of him to draw a conclusion.
Massey coming through as well, potentially.
Massey,
Bangura Williams,
We've got to blend experience with the youth, and if we're gonna go down this road of being a younger side, Joe, it can't include players who are looking at the latter end of their careers. There's got to be a balance drawn. Right. So, hence we've seen Murray go, we've seen Hutchinson go, of course, Saville, and now George Honeyman. A lot of people have said there's how many 500 plus appearances combined and that we've lost there. That's true.
Well,
I
was going to say to you,
look
Nick,
at the impact.
as well. I mean, sorry, mate, go on.
No, I was just going to say, look at the impact that when they're fit, the likes of Race, Bangura, look at Femi Aziz, look at Mihailo up front. These are all players with a lot less appearances, and look at the impact they're having. That's the direction that I want to see our club going. Negley, yeah, we've yet to see him with some of the other. This Bobby Benicio. I don't. Let's see what they look like when they come out.
That's it. So Zack Lovelace. There's so many more, aren't there, to come through.
I want to see how this new policy shapes up because none of us go on forever, and I think it's hard to accept that when players that you personally like are being moved out.
No, I agree. Stato Stephen, the guy with all the stats. Have you got some data for us? We'd love to know if you can give us an idea of how many sort of games have all these Millwall players played and what they've contributed in their time playing for Millwall.
Well, I'll start with the games. So someone mentioned in the comments about Duncan Watmore. I haven't included him in this. We've looked at Honeyman, Saville, Wallace, and Hutchinson in prep for tonight's show. In terms of there it is, Mark. That was a comment. In terms of games in total for Millwall, it's actually 852 games that those four players have played for the club.
Wow.
Hutchinson leads the way, 268. Sav 241, Murray Wallace 226, George Honeyman 117. All of the stats and stuff I've looked into has come from Transfer Market. It's easily accessible, but it's only when you actually look at it and understand. In that sense, people go, Christ, that's a lot of games for Millwall. But again, it's does Alex Neil see that as a big loss? Who knows? You'd have to ask him. Does he see it as, okay, well, we've had these players for a while now, maybe we should try something a little bit different, and that's what we're going to do. His opinion, I think, Joe, you're in the WhatsApp group that the main thing was, well, if Alex Neil is the one who's got to make this work, so his opinion is the one that counts the most. The stat that I do want to draw attention to, and I will ask in the chat if anyone wants to have a little guess. Nick, Joe, obviously Angelo has dropped off. How many goals do you think those four players have scored in their time with us? So George Honeyman, George Saville, Murray Wallace, and Sean Hutchinson. And to give you a little bit of help, I will give you the individual of one. And again, this is where you have to kind of understand, and we all know our football club. We all know what it means maybe to play for Millwall, to follow Millwall, what it takes to be successful at Millwall. George Honeyman will run through a brick wall, and that will get you so far, but he predominantly plays as an attacking midfielder and a right winger, and in his 117 games for Millwall, he's got 3 goals.
Wow. This is why I wish Chris was in here right now, because me and Chris have had some real, sort of back and forth with us, didn't we, over the last sort of year or two? And I've always said, look, nothing against George Honeyman. I rate him as a midfielder, as a central midfielder. That's where he should play. But he's been playing as a number 10, as a right winger, and that's not his game. He's not there scoring goals, creating assists,
It's not, but this is where, and I often say this, I'm sure you guys in the ground often hear it. I do as well. I would run through a brick wall for Millwall. I'm no good at football, as people that have come and watched me play. I'm absolutely crap. But I'd run through a brick wall and I'd try really, really hard. But unfortunately, when you're given the roles of in the attacking positions, unfortunately, stats in today's world, the only stat that matters really is how many goals you score compared to the other teams and how many points you've got at the end of the season. I understand that. But if you've got players in positions that are not producing the numbers that other clubs have got, you're going to fall short. So, as I say, three goals in 117 games for George Honeyman. He'd run through a brick wall, but again, the numbers don't lie. But I'll go back to Honeyman, Saville, Wallace, and Hutchinson. How many goals do you think they've scored for us in their careers, guys? Combined.
As a group.
You go first, Nick.
I'm going to try and work it out. I reckon Saville must have scored something over his. How many years? Is it 5-6 years or so in total? He must have scored about 10 to 15 goals in that time. Murray Wallace, maybe half that, maybe about 5 or 6. That's 20. What was the other one? It was
Hutchinson
Hutchinson.
and Honeyman.
Good from set pieces. He might have got maybe 20. I reckon about 30 goals between the group. Between 30
Joe?
goals.
That's a really good guess. I'm going to go higher or lower. I feel like a bit like Bruce Forsyth here. Higher or lower? Higher than 30? Higher. I know higher. I'm going to go higher. Angelo, are you higher or lower? Are you higher or lower?
Yeah, I think it's got a tiny bit higher. Yeah.
Bit higher. What we saying? 35, 40? How high are we going to go?
35.
35. There you go, Stephen. 35. That's our answer.
They actually scored combined between them 48. 48 goals.
48,
now,
nearly 50 goals. Wow.
Yeah, between
one
them.
of the first guys who mentioned, Rob T, has put 50 in total, so who's only 2 out. So fair play.
That's pretty good.
That's
a good guess, Rob.
Yeah.
Now, again, you have to take the numbers again with a pinch of salt. We're talking about a centre-back converted to a left-back, another centre-back, more of a defensive midfielder. I know Sav was an attacking midfielder in his time when he first was with the club. So you're not expecting it to be... to be big numbers. But again, and this is where today's football, and I say that, and I know that I may be talking with and people that are listening that have been watching football perhaps longer than what I have, but in today's world, the stats it's stats driven. It's just people look at these kind of things. The big players go for big money because they produce goals and assists. And unfortunately, George Honeyman, 11 assists in his time with us, but he's been involved in 14 goals in 117 games. It's less than a goal, contribution every 10 games. Unfortunately, and Nick was saying about the sentiment in football, and I agree 100%. I love George Saville. He was one of my favourites, one of my favourites since I've been supporting the club. But unfortunately, time catches up with everybody, and in today's world, they're just not. For me, they're just not the players that can take us forward, and I think that there are other players out there that can. I hope that we're all proved. Well, I'm proved right there, and it doesn't go the other way. But I think again, the guys mentioned Danny McNamara must know what it takes to play for Millwall. He's come through the academy as a Millwall fan. Billy Mitchell, exactly the same. Ryan Leonard's been here for a long time. Jake Cooper's been here for a long time. It's not like that we're completely clearing the decks of everybody that's ever, that knows the football club. So I just think that sometimes people get caught up in, as Nick said, their favourites, rather than actually watching the game and understanding that maybe we need a little bit more than, let's face it, if we had 11 Jimmy Abdus, would we get promoted? No, but we'd love them.
No, we wouldn't.
We'd love them because
we'll stay up. We'll stay up, won't we?
Oh yeah, but you'd love it, but you wouldn't really get anywhere. So that's where you've got to take your heart out of it a little bit and go, right, we need to be looking at your goals and assists and winning games of football.
Should we move forward to some good news now?
Go on.
Sorry, Nick. Go on, Nick.
No, I was just going to reinforce Steve's point about the role statistics play. I mean, I think you see a lot of emotional reaction online to players going out, the sentiment thing we've been talking about. But the way football is now, it is so driven by statistics, ground covered, tackles made, goals created, all this kind of stuff. And as Steve said, that doesn't lie. And if I don't know where Sav sits in that kind of framework, but clearly the club do, and they give a value according to those numbers. There's no place to hide the modern game.
Just on that as well, Daniel, I would never criticise a defender for how many goals that they score. Any goals that defenders score are chipping in. My point, maybe necessarily with those two that might have been a little bit lost, is that again, you look at other stats that have come out. How many minutes has Sean Hutchinson played over the last 2 years? A guy's been a brick wall for us. Someone said the Bristol Rovers goal. We wouldn't be here today without Sean Hutchinson scoring that goal away at Bristol Rovers all those years ago. So, you can't forget that, but it gets to a point where time, as I say, it's that time doesn't stop for anybody. And unfortunately, as much as we'd all love Hutchinson to be 3 or 4 years younger and still the heart of maybe of the defence, unfortunately, he's not. And you have to look at everything rather than just he's been here a long time, he's captain, he's a fan's favourite, he's this, that, and the other. It's what can they do to improve this club's position? Are they good enough to get us from 8th to 6th? And I think if you really delved into it and looked into it, most people would say no, they're not.
I agree.
Agree,
So let's
agree.
move forward to some positive news. Angelo, we heard today it's been dragging on for quite some time, but Danny Mack has now agreed and signed an extension of his contract. Obviously, he's been out for a long time with a really bad knee injury this season. A lot of people thought that maybe that was it. His Mill career is over, but he signed a new contract. I don't think he's going to be back anytime soon, but maybe towards the end of this year, we might see him playing a few games. What's your thoughts on that? Are you pleased? Are you feel that's the right move by the club to offer that extension for him?
Yeah, definitely good news, mate. Millwall runs through his blood. Sadly, he got injured right in the early stages of Alex Neil's tenure, didn't he? So, there's definitely a player in there. A couple of seasons ago, QPR wanted to pay $2 million for him. So I'd love, I want him to get fit, and I'd like to see what Alex Neil can do with him, mate, because most of the players have improved, bar Imaku, under Alex Neil. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what Alex Neil can do with Danny McNamara, mate. Yeah, so no, that's good news. I'm pleased, mate.
Good stuff. Nick, what's your thoughts on Danny McNamara signing an extension of his contract? We don't know how long it's for, but obviously we know he's extended it. It's going to be here next season.
I suppose it's good news. I like Danny a lot, and I think he, as a player, he's got a lot more technique and skill than maybe sometimes he's given this kind of Millwall will run through the wall thing that we keep talking about. But I think he's a better player than maybe sometimes that implies. So I'm pleased about that. The injury is the thing, I suppose. I mean, if he's on the road to recovery and we're going to get a good slice of him next season, then it becomes worthwhile to extend the contract. Because as we keep saying, football is a ruthless business. And whether we like it or not, that's how the club have to look at these kinds of equations. So they must be on the road to recovery. They must have a sense that he's going to get back to where he was fitness-wise. And as Angelo said, I mean, Alex Neil does seem to improve players. And it's going to be interesting to see what he can do with Danny Mack. I've always felt that he's a better player than sometimes he's been given credit for, So, no, I think it's good news. I'm pleased for him.
Excellent. Cheers, Nick. And going to yourself, Stephen, on news of Danny McNamara, obviously 26 years of age. He's no longer classed as a youngster anymore. He's coming towards his sort of prime. We've seen what he can do for us when he has been called to fill in, whether it be at left back, right back. He's always done a decent job for us defensively. What's your thoughts on that? Is that a good move from the club to keep him on?
So I've given Danny a bit of a hard time over the last couple of years, but in recent history, before he got his injury, I actually thought he was playing really, really well. He was looking really, really solid, as a defensive right back, as an offensive fullback or wing back, whatever you want to call it. I don't think he's necessarily quite got that in his locker just yet. Alex Neil might need to work a little bit on him going forward, but defensively he was very, very good. I actually look at the signing and think the contract extension, it probably buys us a little bit of time in the transfer window, because we've now got two right backs signed up in Leonard and McNamara. Do they want to get another one? Do they want to get another attacking one? Maybe they do, and have Leonard as a bit of a utility player. But by McNamara staying, it kind of says, right, we have a right back. We have someone who, he won't let you down. He'll give you 100% in that position. And it may just mean we can look at other targets first before we revisit the right back. It's not a matter of urgency. So good for the club, good for Danny. Obviously, Millwall in the blood, can't be a bad thing. I just hope that maybe we can get someone to get hold of him a little bit and get him to teach him to cross the ball and maybe a little bit better in attacking positions. But one-on-one defensively, very, very good. And I think someone said in the chat, can play left back as well. So you've got another little bit of cover over there if need be.
I've always said for Danny Mack. Yes, mate.
Can I ask the viewers and the listeners a question? Yeah, like I've done this in our WhatsApp group today, and I think everyone thought I lost the plot and been drinking or on drugs or something. I reckon Danny Mack would be an unbelievable, tenacious midfielder, and I just want to know if anyone in the chat believe, like I can see him like a Jason Malumbi wiping players out, winning the ball. Winning the ball, passing it to Casper. I
But
think
is that us evolving though? Is that us moving forward, or is that like more of the dark ages a little bit? I don't know. I'm just playing like devil's advocate.
I don't know if you've noticed there. We've got all of our listeners turning off. They're all turning off after that.
Well, back in the 80s,
Yeah,
Stevens
he would have fitted in
moved from
great alongside Les Briley and Terry Hurlock. Hey, Nick, he would have been.
That was a different approach, though. That was an old school approach there, Angelo, wasn't it? Back in those times, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a makeshift. I wouldn't have thought that's what the club have got in mind. I don't know, but I think that.
I think he plays centre half.
I'm trying to be gentle with you, Angelo.
I love the comments coming through, Angelo. We've got what have you been smoking? Danny Mack will be sent off if you played in the middle. I wouldn't do it. To be honest with you, I can see your.
Defensive midfielder, definitely.
I can see your thinking, and he will be tenacious, But then we had George Honeyman doing that, didn't we? And it didn't quite give him a place in the team next season. It wasn't quite enough, was it? You got that bit of quality on the ball. For me, Danny Mack, I said it before, I think defensively, he's Premiership quality defensively. When it's 1v1s, marking players defensively, I think he's outstanding. Going forward, once he goes past that halfway line into that final third, he just lacks something for me. But he's 26. He's not 36. I think he's still got a bit of time to improve, on his delivery, getting to the byline, overlapping, as a modern day fullback should do. And, let Alex Neil work with him. As Stephen said, Alex Neil's only had 1 or 2 games with him. He hasn't had opportunity to see him on the training pitch or get him to do what he wants to do on the pitch. He's definitely got an engine. There's no reason why he couldn't get up and down that flank. But I just feel he needs to really work technically in that final third. And in modern day footballer, you've got to get crosses in. You've got to contribute. And I think he scored 2 goals for Millwall. Both, was it in one game, Nick?
Yeah, it was.
It was, yeah. So, he's got it in him. But unfortunately, it's just not often enough, in my opinion. So I don't know what you guys feel about that. But, yeah.
We're just looking at the disciplinary record last year, as we're talking about Danny Mack going into midfield and wiping players out. We only had one. Correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe viewers can correct me if I'm wrong, but we only had one red card last season. That was a certain Liam Roberts at Crystal Palace. Otherwise, we didn't have that many yellows. Not as many as you might imagine. So I think the disciplinary side of it, being serious, is important, because if you start losing players, you're not going to win many games. There's many games.
Here's
so I think
the question.
It's interesting.
Here's a question for you, Nick. Nick, do you know who's the last player to be sent off for Millwall?
What?
You just said it. Liam Roberts.
Oh, Liam Roberts.
Before Liam Roberts, sorry.
Oh, before Roberts. Without checking. Season before last, then.
Stato?
Don't know. Didn't Jake get 2 yellows?
I know who it is. I know who it is.
Who's it, Angela?
Tanganga.
Oh, Tanganga got sent off, didn't he?
Was it Tanganga? Oh, is that a double yellow? Was it?
Last game of the
There's
season.
a Swansea last game of the season.
Swansea.
That's right.
When was it Marku sent off? When Marku got sent off at the Den, didn't he?
Was that last season?
That was under Harris, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was last season. Beginning of, we were 3-0 up against Preston, I think, and he lost his head a bit, didn't he?
There you go. Got Tango,
and then Harris decided to basically say you're not playing again after his
after that. Yeah.
After his suspensions. But one thing,
fine judge of youth.
One thing on that though, and that tells you a lot about the disciplinary record, because I think I'm gonna get this right. The season before, I don't think we had any red cards. Then we had, obviously, I think it was Tanganga. Then last year we had the Roberts and whatnot. And one thing that frustrates me, and I'm sure that you guys see it all the time, is how people talk about when managers go and opposition supporters. Millwall are direct. We're physical. We get in your face. We do.
Aggressive.
We don't do that. And I think that's where, again, the sentiment of there are perhaps members of the fan base, and I'm not saying that they're wrong at all, but would love to have them crunching, hard hitting midfielders and take one for the team type attitude. But as with everything, with our transfer policy, with off the field, all of that kind of stuff, we are evolving as a team, and we're not producing them players. We're not asking our players to go in flying into tackles anymore. And that's where, again, your Savills, your Honeymans, Wallace, Hutchinson, they probably would still do that.
But also, Stephen, in today's football, you've seen people go in for tackles, win the ball, and still get a yellow card.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
There'll come a point in the next sort of few seasons where you can't literally go to ground. You know, and then those players will be a dying breed, won't they?
Surely you want a few players like that, don't we? That's what Livingston said.
I agree. I think you do need to have someone that's going to, like, for example, a big crunching tackle. But what I'm saying is that whereas maybe in the past where people have looked at Millwall and gone, you know, we used to have, you know, when we got first promoted to the Championship, and you'd have the back four of Ryan Leonard, Sean Hutchinson, Jake Cooper, and Murray Wallace. It was land of the Giants, and they were just going to absolutely bully you. We don't do that anymore. That's not what we're asking our players to do. And I think the disciplinary record, it really highlights that, because we don't have as many reds and yellow cards as maybe what other people think that we do.
And I think we're trying to play football now. We're trying to get on the ball a bit more.
Timing the tackle, isn't it? Really.
That's
but you still need tough players, mate. You still need some tough animals in there.
Again, that's why we call him the Sicilian Godfather, Nick. You see?
Do, though. You do.
If there's not blood, if there's not guts sticking out of their sides, Andrew's not buying it. No,
I understand what Stephen's saying, but you still need some players in there who are going to wipe a couple of players out, mate.
I don't disagree. But what I'm saying is that if you look at some of the players that are being brought into the club, I don't want to get on his back because I know that he cops a lot of bit of a stick. But can you see Luke Cundall really seriously flying into tackles, or maybe someone like Femi Aziz? He puts himself about a bit, and he's a good player, Aziz. But that we're not bringing in players that are coming in to come in and smash anybody. And I'm not saying, as I say, that's why Ryan Leonard, Danny McNamara are still there. But I don't think we'll be signing as many of those.
Who's the one player that everyone keeps calling for? Jason Malumbi. What's Jason Malumbi do? He punches.
Oh, absolutely.
But he's got quality on the ball. He does. He can drive forward. He can score goals. You know.
We are a club.
When his kid was a little kid, you know, Sunday League football. He's 5-year-old little Ollie, fucking do him. Take him out.
It's got to be said, chaps, as well. We are a club or a fan base that will applaud players for getting a red card. You know.
Yeah.
They'll be applauded off the pitch for showing that Millwall metal. You know. Look at Liam Roberts, a very perfectly harmless challenge at Crystal Palace, and he saw red. I think that's what we've got to be careful of, you know. Anyway,
very true. Moving on, guys. Moving on. We broke news today. We've signed a goalkeeper. I can only imagine this guy as a backup for while Lucas Jensen's out until December. So Max Crocombe, is that how you pronounce it, Stato? Crocombe?
I think it's Crocombe, but
Crocombe, a New Zealand Kiwi international goalkeeper. We signed him from was it from Burton? But
I've got it.
I don't know how good he is, but the Burton fans, you look at social media, a lot of them are saying good things about him, saying how good he is. Although I think Andrew, you spotted it once, didn't you? That I think he was playing for one of the worst teams in the league, conceded the most amount of goals in that season last season, didn't he as well?
Who said that? Me.
Did you? Who said that? Pretend you did say it, Angela. Pretend you said it. just move it on. Move it on.
Do you know what? Right? Apparently, no. He won some award in some oceanic tournament down in Australia or something. Yeah, player of the tournament. And the season before last, he was Burton's player of the season.
All right, okay.
Obviously, there's YouTube videos out there, mate. But listen, the YouTube videos, they're very hard. You know, we got to just see him in the flesh. But he did come comfortably for a few crosses. You know, he's obviously a tall lad, isn't he? So let's hope he's that's a strong part of his game. And also, his kicking looked very, very good.
Yes, I can't help but have an image of the name of Max Crocombe, I can't help but have an image of Mrs. Slocum from Are You Being Served with her pussy. that won't leave the house till it's had something hot inside it. Anyway, move along.
You can't write comedy like that anymore, can you? You literally can't write comedy like that anymore.
Show it, Joe. It's all
no,
gone
exactly. Nick, what's your thoughts on Max Crocombe? I don't know if you know much about it. Have you seen much?
Don't really know enough to comment. I mean,
No?
you know, as Angelo just said, if he's player of the season at Burton, we're looking for. I didn't know much about Jensen other than similar kinds of things that we heard from him about him at Lincoln. We needed someone to back up the goalkeeping situation. So let's wait and see. Really, I mean, I've got no reason to think badly of him. You know, we'll wait and see on him. I don't know the boy at all.
I would imagine
no
we're going to
worries,
bring. I'd imagine we bring another goalkeeper in as well, won't we?
Well, we've got George Evans, don't we? So whether George Evans stays on, whether he goes out on loan,
Evans didn't. I don't know what you'll think, chaps, but didn't Evans look physically small in the goal? I mean, I'm sure he's a good goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong. He just looks physically small in that goal, and the goal looked very big, and he looked very small within it. He did a great job for us in difficult circumstances, but I like a goalkeeper that looks like a bit of a beast there, you know. And I'd be interested to see what this. Slocum, Crocombe, what he looks like. Mrs. Slocum.
Yeah.
See what Mrs. Slocum looks
she
like.
could definitely fill out a goal, can't she, Mrs. Slocum? But George Evans. I mean, he's not small. I mean, he's about 6'2". He's a decent size. You're right though, Nick. I mean, goalkeepers, unless you're 6'5", 6'6". You need to be that kind of height to make that difference, don't you? You know, and
you want to see a David Ford in goal, a monster. Someone looks like he could chin you as soon as look at it. You know,
I feel
don't
like
forget when I met Dave Ford. I mean, he shook my hands once, and I've got quite big hands, and literally my hands disappeared. He had hands like shovels. I'm like, bloody hell, where's it gone? Sorry to say, go on, mate.
I feel like with the goalkeeper position, and I don't want to do this guy a disservice, as someone said, that the video clip that we saw on social media that he shared himself, by the way, made him look like Manuel Neuer. So you're not gonna put in when he drops the ball or one slips through his hands. I understand that, but we've got. I get Jensen can't be helped, but we're going into the season with the goalkeeper of a team that finished one place above the relegation zone in League One, and someone who's only played 4 games of professional football at any reasonable standard because he was thrown in because we literally had nobody else. So the questions around signing another goalkeeper, okay, Evans probably needs a loan to get proper experience, in my opinion. Crocombe, fair enough. He'll be a backup goalkeeper. He'll be the number 3 when Jensen inevitably comes back. But we will be signing. There has to be another goalkeeper, in my opinion.
Stephen, and no goalkeeping coach, mate. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? Andy Marshall was instrumental in obviously Mati Sarkic. He was instrumental in Lucas Jensen. There's no one pulling them strings at the moment. But again, as I said earlier, I'm not. People want the news about who we're going to sign. They want the news on the kit. They want the news on the Turkish bloke or the Saudi bloke who's going to buy us or whatever. You know, they just want some form of news. The club will identify players. This move for this goalkeeper is just to fill a position that we desperately need. We have to have a backup goalkeeper. We can't not have a backup goalkeeper and rely on kids to bail you out all the time. But it looks like with him, with Danny McNamara, maybe, they've just signed up players to make sure that they've got numbers in positions so they can then concentrate on the key signings and get those over the line. And I think that's all this goalkeeper signing is for me. It's filling a position that we need.
Very, very quickly, guys. Rob T just said Gavin Ward mentioned as goalkeeper coach. Any truth in that? I don't know if you guys seen that at all.
I saw someone's name mentioned the other day because, as Angelo said, Andy Marshall's moved on, hasn't he? I did see a name, but whether it was Gavin Ward, I don't know. But I thought I saw that someone was linked with the Mill goalkeeping coach position. But whether it's that guy or not, I don't know.
It was. It's the guy who was
Rob P. I heard that as well. Gavin Ward, wasn't sure, but it was actually out there. But yeah, maybe it is. Moving forward, staying with yourself, Nick. Zack Sturge. So we believe that he's going to be signing for Millwall. The 20-year-old has 1 year left on his contract with Chelsea. Millwall wasn't prepared to wait another year until his contract expires, so I think they've done a deal with Chelsea to try and get him in. It hasn't been officially announced yet by the club, but rumours are that he's signing for us. What do you make of him last season? Yeah, he only played a little bit towards the end. Played a few games. I think he played in the 1-0, 2-0 win against Swansea at home.
Yeah,
I think he looked quite sure that the left back for Joe Bryan.
Long spell out injured, didn't he? And then he came back at the very end of the campaign. I really liked him. I mean, I think he's exactly the young, fast, skillful kind of player that I think we're trying to move towards as a first choice 11. Certainly, every time I saw him last season, he was impressive. I think Joe Bryan really improved, but that's probably as a result of some measure of competition coming in for his place and maybe the new regime managerially. But no, I personally think from what we saw of Zack Sturge last season, that's the kind of player that I want to see coming into Millwall. You know, he's clearly going to be surplus to requirements at Chelsea, so he's got to be realistic about where he might move to. And Millwall is a very good platform to bounce back to where he might feel he should be playing. You know, the level he should be playing at. But from our point of view, no. If that comes to pass, and I've seen the same rumours and posts online, I think that'd be very, very good news indeed. I really liked him.
One. Cheers, Nick. So coming to you next, Stephen. So Nick feels that it's a smart bit of business on our part, getting Zack Sturge in. Do you think he's ready for first team action next season, or is he one for the future, one for development, in your opinion?
I think he probably is one that could be playing next season, but I think it would be incredibly harsh to not give Joe Bryan a start at the start of the season based on his form towards the back end of last season. The other thing with Bryan is that I know we've had our difficulties with Joe Bryan, but he has played at a good level. He has, he was very, very highly rated. Zack Sturge could learn an awful lot from him. That's possibly where the direction will be. You'll start with Bryan. Maybe we'll start to be phased out perhaps towards the end of the season with a view to maybe to move on. I don't know how long Bryan's contract was, but I think Sturge is definitely ready. But I think it's the way the setup's going to be is that Bryan will kind of be a little bit more of a mentor, probably be the first choice, and Sturge will fill in when Bryan perhaps is in cup games, or if there's any injuries or suspensions for the long term, for Sturge to then be the regular left back moving forward.
I agree. Coming to you next, Angelo. Obviously, Nick feels it's a smart bit of business. Stephen feels that perhaps he is ready for first team action, but obviously give Joe Bryan a chance first. Do you see him as someone who we could finally bring in as a long-term solution at left back? I mean, does he tick the boxes for you in the modern day fullback?
Yeah, I echo what Stephen said. I think Joe Bryan has to start, but this guy is young, he's tall, looks strong, he's fast, he's athletic. And the short period of time that he played last season, he played with a smile on his face. Looked like he fitted in with the squad and he's feeling happy. And he fits our model, doesn't he? Young guy at the beginning of his career. So, yeah, ticks all the boxes for me, mate, yeah. I'm pleased with that if we get it over the line, yeah.
That's right. One thing I must say, our listeners do know their stuff. Connor just said Joe Zampa for striker. I mean, who am I to argue? They know more than us, don't they? But
that'll cause a kerfuffle online if Joe Zampa signs.
Can you imagine it? There'd be riots outside the den, wouldn't it? There'll be riots out there. There'll be cars
flipped over. There'll be a banner attached to the gate.
Oh my God! Can you imagine it? Stato, quick question for you, if you can answer. When do players return to pre-season training? Do you know?
I thought it was next week.
I thought it was Thursday.
It's usually the beginning of July, isn't it, Nick? Have you got any news on that? When the players return to training?
July the 1st, I thought. But I mean, don't we go off to Spain for pre-season training sometime?
Yes, in the middle of July.
Joe, I'm pretty sure it is Thursday, mate, because
in
the interview with the new goalkeeper, I think the guy mentioned it on that. I think it's Thursday. 2 days.
Right, Rob said 26, so you're right, yeah. And Jesper said they turned on the 26th. There you go. Definitely Thursday.
That's fixture release day as well.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
It's all happening. It's all happening on that day. If our injuries are like last season, you may get a run out, Joe. Cheers, Mark. That and if the cleaner is unavailable, then I might get a look in. Guys, there's a rumor going around. Coming to you first, Stephen. Ben Pearson rumor from Stoke, 30-year-old, no nonsense tackling midfielder. We're hearing this one might be a bit of nonsense, but it's out there anyway. What's your thoughts on him? And he's worked with Alex Neil a couple of times before at Preston, at Stoke. He's even played in the Premier League with AFC Bournemouth. What's your thoughts on that? If it is true, Ben Pearson is the sort of player we want to attract, or do you feel we kind of move forward from there now?
No, thanks. To be honest,
Not for you?
not in all honesty.
Angelo, come to you next.
couple of years ago, maybe, but I have been. I don't want to say reliably informed, but from someone who I would trust that wouldn't be wrong on these kind of things, that's actually rubbish. There's nothing there. It's people are putting 2 and 2 together with Alex Neil being he made him captain, I think, at Preston and sort of coming up with 5. 2 years ago, maybe, but not now. Someone of that mould, that kind of defensive midfielder, that steel in the middle, but maybe not him personally.
No, okay, not for you, Stephen. Angelo, we've heard Richard Cowley, I think, come out, answered one of the fans the other day saying, look, I don't think there's any truth in that one. What's your thoughts on that if it was to happen? Is it sort of player we should be attracting, or should we be aiming a little bit higher than that?
if we had a time machine, mate, go back 4 years, I'll take him, but not now, mate, not now. And I think the Millwall fans would have loved him as well, because he literally is a headless chicken. He just knocks people out in the middle of the field. Gets sent off 2-3 times a season. Just an animal. But yeah, not now, mate. No, not for me.
Brilliant. Okay, before I come to yourself, Nick, just very quickly, I want to say thank you so much to John. Mate, £10 donation for our charity, Cancer Research UK. That's really kind of you, John, mate. Thank you so much on behalf of everyone here. We will read out your question. We'll get the guys to answer it. Would you love to see Norton Cuffy back? Nick, just a very kind of quick yes or no from you, mate.
Would love to, yes.
Yeah, Stephen?
I'd love it, but I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Angelo?
Definitely.
Is a thumbs up? There you go, John. John, thank you so much. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks for your donation for our charity. We do appreciate that. Nick, just want to come to you, mate, with regards to the Ben Pearson rumour. I mean, I don't even know much about Ben Pearson. Have you seen him over the years?
No, just listening to what the other chaps have been saying. I mean, I'm not sure if we've upgraded much by losing Saville for someone like Ben Pearson. In that case, that's the only thing
2
that
years
strikes
younger,
me.
I suppose you could argue.
Yeah, maybe. I don't really know the player, so I can't say one way or the other, what kind of style he's got. But if he is that kind of industrious, knock him about midfielder, well, maybe not. I don't know. But I would have thought that's what Saville's role was. I kind of hope we're trying to move along a little bit from that into something with a bit more guile and a bit more skill. I mean, we've mentioned goals from players that have been lost. Goals from midfield is something that I think we need to probably focus on next season. We're getting the ball forwards nicely, and we're getting scorers from the likes of Ivanovic and Aziz and others. But I would have thought we've got to be looking for some goals from our midfielders a little bit more than maybe we've had in recent times. So whether that's Ben Pearson, I don't know.
It's funny you say that, Nick. I read a comment from one of the Mill fans earlier today, and he said, if we sign Ben Pearson, I'm renewing my National Trust membership instead of my Mill season ticket.
Old relics. More value in the old relics there.
Exactly. And I saw this one online as well. I don't know if you can see that, guys. A Stoke fan says, I don't quite know why so many Stoke fans seem to think he's such a great player. He slows midfield down, never runs more than 10 yards with the ball. or dives forward, taking opponents on, or creates anything. He just lumbers around, kicking people and picking up yellow cards. Last season, he scored an own goal against QPR, so the 3-match ban in December, and was sent off against Leeds. The only shot at goal he managed all season was so bad, it hit a kid in the face in the away end. I challenge any Stoke fan to name just one good thing he's ever done in a game. It's no coincidence that Stoke played better and managed to pick up 15 points from when he missed the last 7 games of the season. They were 2 points clear of the drop zone after the last game. If he carried on his non-creative way, he would have got us relegated. Love, Mum. Jesus.
Love, Mum. Is that
Can
Mrs. Pearson? Tell Mrs. Pearson to stop writing in.
Can I just say though that I don't, and I don't know if we get any Stoke fans listen to us, but I really don't. I don't think we can take a Stoke fan's opinion that seriously, because they change managers. They think they spend millions of pounds on players.
This is very true. Very true.
Look, I don't think I'd want Ben Pearson. I've made that quite clear. But again, it's from a Stoke fan. They slagged off Alex Neil. They slagged off Gary Rowett. I know, we've got our things with Rowett in the past, but their football club is a poison chalice for managers and players, in my opinion. So I don't think we can really rate him from his time there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Stato, I want to say to you very, very quickly. There was an article out on the Daily Record article with Murray Wallace on Zack Lovelace. Now, before we move on, I think you've got a piece there in front of you that you could read out for us. If I could hand that over to you, Stephen, and just give us a bit of a preview of the Stato, and just sort of take it away if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's a weird article. I won't read the whole thing, but essentially Murray Wallace was interviewed by the Daily Record, and he was asked a question about Zack Lovelace, obviously a link with being Scottish and the fact that Lovelace went to Scotland, come back. And the way that he was talking about him was that potentially that Rangers would potentially regret allowing Zack Lovelace to leave the club. The quote that he said here, it's all about getting game time to develop, and if he gets his opportunity in game time with Millwall, he could be a real top striker. And it basically just goes on to say that it of course that could be one they may regret, but it's obviously just not right for them at this moment in time. The reason why we decided to bring this up, and perhaps we can put it to the listeners, Angelo, and I think Nick is still there, perhaps just off camera. We talk about what role players are going to have next season, and maybe players that we're going to be linked with, but there seemed to be quite a bit of excitement and quite a lot made of the return of Zack Lovelace to Millwall. Some fans, myself included, were probably a little bit like, well, it's a bit of an odd move, but do we really think he is one that they want to get in the first team? And a second question to that, Angelo, I'll come to you first, perhaps. Can you see a world where Mihailo Ivanovic's partner in the team is Zack Lovelace next season?
I was excited about Zack Lovelace coming back because, number one, he wanted to come back. Number two, he turned down a Rangers contract to come back. And there was a couple of clips of him in training just before he got injured. He looked very, very good. And one thing that everybody talks about him is unbelievably rapid, mate. Rapid.
He's fast, isn't he?
Yeah. So I would say, Stephen, that I'd like to give the kid a couple of years. Do you know what I mean? I'm excited about him. I'm happy we got him. I don't know what the injury was last season. I don't know if you know, but I hope he comes back fit pre-season and we give him a go, mate. I really do.
He had to have surgery on his knee, so it was a bit of a long one. But and then the other point to this is we also signed AJ Matthews from Middlesbrough, 2 strikers who are under the age of, I think Lovelace is 19, Matthews is, I think, 18, maybe 19 himself. We talk about the need to sign players and goals from midfield. They're not midfielders, I know, but are trying to find more goals. Do we think that those two young lads are the future, or will we again be dipping into the market for another striker to help Ivanovic or partner Ivanovic, or will they look at them too?
We tried really hard to keep Lovelace, didn't we? When he went to Rangers, he was quite young. Was he 15 when he went up to Scotland?
I believe so,
17,
yeah.
16,
Something
17,
like
I
that.
think maybe, yeah.
And I think his head was probably turned by the money and the glamour and all the rest of it. But we really tried hard, as I understand it, to keep hold of him. So clearly there's something of a player in there. I haven't seen enough of him since he's been up there, and then obviously since he's come back down, he's been injured largely. I mean, I thought that was an interesting signing, but we made a few interesting signings we've not seen hide nor hair of since. I mean, with Bobby Baker, we've mentioned before we started recording.
He was injured as well, wasn't he?
We'll start seeing a return on some of these players, don't we? You know, it's great to have promising prospects, but you've got to see them at some stage. And I think Lovelace is in that category. Whether he could start or not, I don't know. I haven't seen enough of him. We don't know what he's going to come back from the injury like, but certainly we tried hard to keep him initially. So that's my positive straw that I'm clutching at.
Do you think, Nick, stay yourself? Sorry, Stephen. Do you feel that Millwall as a club, we're finally kind of winning, actually, in a bit of the transfer chess game for once? Normally, it's us getting the raw deal and losing the best players, but you know, Murray was talking about how Rangers are going to regret losing Zack Lovelace. Zack Lovelace wants to come back to Millwall. We want to come back down south again, and we don't often get won over the big clubs like Rangers, do we? So again, is that a sign of Millwall and our model and how we move forward, how we're attracting all these young players at the moment?
Hope so. I mean, obviously, we just said it's fine to have prospects. You want to see them deliver at some stage, and in that kind of category of the Lovelace category, if you want, Joe, I'd also throw Danny Kelly when he came down from Celtic. A lot of Celtic fans were hurting. He'd chosen to go to the big smoke rather than Millwall, rather than the giant Celtic as they see it. But at the same time, we've hardly seen the boy. So I don't know. I mean, we've made a few signings which initially sounded like they were splash signings, and they've just not seen them at all. So I'm hoping that next season is when we start to see the true flowering of all these prospects, because otherwise they're just drifting, aren't they?
Yeah, very true. Sorry, Steve, go on, mate.
I just find it incredible, really, that we're going into a transfer window, or we're in a transfer window going into a season. And if you actually was to jot down our squad at the moment, if you was to put the names of forwards that we actually have available, and I'm not talking just strikers, I'm talking wingers as well, like that go in that category. We actually have a quite a large number of players that fit into that category. And for a club that we don't score loads of goals, really, we haven't scored loads of goals for a long, prolonged period of time. Can we afford to keep, as Nick said, these prospects, these players that have got something about them, they're talented, but instantly we're looking for a replacement for Josh Coburn to come in and be challenging in the first. Do you know what I mean? It just seems odd that we've got a lot of these types of players.
I think it's a different type of player as well. You look at like Zack Lovelace, BBB, and AJ Matthews. They're all quick, smaller type players. They're not the target man that's going to replace Coburn. And maybe Alex Neil wants somebody who's a bit of a unit up front and can hold the ball up, let players play off him and stuff. So I can see why he's still looking for that Josh Coburn type of player. It may not be Josh Coburn, it might be a player similar to, could give those kind of attributes. But I do feel the youngsters can give a lot as well. But where they play, I don't know. If he's going to play the front two, they might fit in. If they play as a sole striker, I can't see any of those being the sole striker that could do the job that a Coburn or Ivanovic might be able to do,
This is where, though, and I know we're going off a little bit of a tangent here, but you got Ivanovic, Langstaff is still there, Nisbet has come back, Lovelace, AJ Matthews. So that's 5 what we consider strikers that are on the books that would be considered available for first team selection. Then you add into that Aziz, Negley, Maku, who is also potentially you could put down as a striker, Benicio Baker, Bangura Williams. They can't all play, and yet we're still looking for someone else to come in. It just this policy, I think, is going to be great long term, and we are going to see some prospects get into the first team. But we can't just, we all know the finances at Millwall were a little bit tight, shall we say? How can we carry? I've just named 10 forwards. We can't have that numbers in the squad.
To your point there, Stephen. Let's say, for example, Zack Lovelace kicks on next season, does really well. First of all, how would he fit into our system? And secondly, does that then push other players out, the likes of Nisbet, Langstaff? Because these are players at the moment that you would think are ahead of him. But if he does really well and plays into the first team, suddenly so many other players are now falling behind the queue that they don't have a place anymore, do they, in the squad, let alone the first team?
Well, and that's it. This is what I'm saying. I mean, look, I don't see a world where Kevin Nisbet and Macaulay Langstaff are still at the club come the end of the transfer window. I think one of them will be. I don't know, but I don't think both of them will, and it depends obviously on who takers for both. But I think that we're talking about signings that we may need and adding goals and things like that, but we're also carrying an awful lot of players. And it's just, I saw the article about Lovelace and that Wallace was talking about him, and it got me thinking about, realistically, are we in a position that Alex Neil is going to have to maybe let some of these boys go out on loan, to get some experience and to free up space to sign the players that he wants?
Undoubtedly, that's going to be the case. Undoubtedly. Sorry, Joe.
Sorry, that's all right. Angela, anything you want to add to that before we move on to the next segment of the show?
Yes, so Stephen, have you heard someone from the club say that we're looking for strikers? Or
No, well, it's just Alex Neil made a big thing, didn't he, at the back end of the season, how they were pushing to sign Josh Coburn. He made 3 or 4 comments, after games, press conferences before games, that they wanted to do a deal with Middlesbrough. They wanted to sign him. They wanted to keep him. They were making all the noise about signing him up. So that says to me that, I know it's an obvious thing to say, but they wanted him as the striker to help partner or share the workload with Mihajlo Ivanovic. Middlesbrough have now changed their manager. I think today they announced Rob Edwards as head coach, or whatever title he's been given. So he may get looked at there, which would mean, does Alex Neil then say, "Oh, we don't need another striker," or is he going to look elsewhere? That's where I'm basing it on, that they probably do want another forward, because they were so adamant that they wanted Coburn.
Do you know what? With all these strikers that, like, you've just read out, I hate friendlies. I hate non-competitive football. Yeah, but I think that maybe our pre-season is going to be quite important, mate. Just to put these young guys in and see, right, what can you do? Show us what you can do. And I'm hoping 1 or 2 of them come through next season, mate. I really do. I can't see them all coming through. There's not enough space for them, but let's hope a couple of them come to fruition, just like the Serb did. The Serb second part of the season was fantastic. So,
Nick,
very Millwall situation to be awash with strikers, and yet 47 goals scored, and that's one of the lowest in the table. Only Hull City, Luton have got relegated, and Stoke got less than us last season. Yet we've got an abundance of striking power,
and Nick,
but we can't score a goal for Toffee.
That is, the nail on the head, that we've got all these forwards, yet we still have the problems in front. That's what I'm getting at. What is it that they're going to do with them? Are they going to keep persisting with them, or do they just completely loan them all out and get another 2-3 faces in? I don't know.
Stephen, the problem with us is we don't create enough chances. The Serb, luckily, has got an unbelievable conversion rate for chances that he scores. We need these attacking midfielders that are going to create chances.
But also, Angelo, to your point, would the Serb score as many goals as he did towards the end had he not been playing alongside Coburn? I do get the impression that playing 2 up front, it allowed Ivanovic to be the kind of fox in the box a little bit, score these goals, where Coburn was almost like holding the ball up, allowing Ivanovic to play his game a little bit more. And we noticed when Ivanovic was on his own up front, or didn't have Coburn alongside him, he probably wasn't as effective as he was with Coburn. So I think that's why Alex Neil was so keen to keep Coburn, to allow others around him to play a little bit. See what I mean?
But Joe, I think half of them goals that the Serb scored was without Coburn because he was injured. I think Millwall just announced Honeyman's gone, mate. I think they just popped up on my phone.
Has it?
They just announced
right, it's confirmed now, is it?
Yeah.
Nick,
so I think
Nick.
Listen,
Sorry,
it could be down to Alex Neil. It could be he's just got used to the Championship, and it could have been Coburn, mate. But I think he did still score a lot of goals without Coburn, Joe.
Yeah, well, I hope so. But then next season, does he go with 2 up front? If he does go up with 2 up front, we've got lots of players that can play alongside him and with pace. It might mean that Ivanovic has to become the player who's the target man for the players to hit first, to hold the ball up, lay the ball off, and allow the likes of Zack Lovelace or AJ Matthews or who it might be to run off behind him or run over into the channels. Who knows? So it'd be interesting to see how it all pans out. Nick, you've got a message here from Bobby T. Nick.
Bobby T. Hello, Bob.
Can't wait to August. Hello, Nick, the Godfather. I think he means Podfather. He's not that old.
Hello, Bobby.
There you go. Sorry, Angelo.
Wonderful voicemail messages from Bobby T.
Love those voicemail messages. Love it.
Yeah. So Joe, in a perfect world, right? In a perfect world, we get Negley come back fit. We get Reece Bangura Williams comes back fit. We get Aziz carry on like he was, and we got an informed Serb, mate. We've got attacking options there, but all we need now is maybe some reinforcements in the midfield, mate.
Agree.
To the point, I guess, by letting the likes of Honeyman go, Jules Saville goes, maybe wants to bring in midfielders that are going to create more chances for these forwards, as you say.
But
we've got to start
there's
scoring more goals.
Injuries, there's going to be off form. It's never going to run perfect. But I think we have got the caliber of players to score goals. I really do.
Good stuff. Looking to move forward to the next topic, guys. The topics I want to discuss here is pre-season friendlies. I don't know about you guys, Nick, but I just feel a little bit underwhelmed most seasons. When you look at our pre-season friendlies, there's often like a Gillingham in there or something like that. This season we've got Bromley, we've got Sutton, AFC Wimbledon. We're going to Spain and we play against the fucking Cobblers, Northampton. I mean, what's that about? I mean, why don't we get to play like Premiership teams away, Nick? I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Is it money, logistics, or just tradition?
I don't know. I think it might be the fact that they don't want Millwall fans in the stadium.
I was going to say, that could be the bigger teams just don't want to play us. Maybe that's the reason why.
After 50 years of going Millwall, I think I've worked out that's half the battle, really. Oh dear, there's some wonderful friendlies in the past that all went a bit square. We had Tottenham in a pre-season friendly once, didn't we? At the Den, you can viewers can put the rest together in their minds of what that was like. And weren't we due to play Iran once in a pre-season friendly? Millwall versus Iran.
I think I remember that. Yeah,
it got cancelled.
Very quick. I was going to ask you, Nick, is there any games that stick in your mind, pre-season friendlies, that you thought, that's a good pre-season friendly against an opposition team going back a few years?
I'm generally speaking, 95% of the time I'm with Angelo in that I hate pre-season friendlies. I can't bear them. There's 2 obvious ones that spring to my mind, though, just to contradict that. One was the first game at the New Den, Millwall 1, Sporting Lisbon 2, which was a magnificent night, but that was the occasion rather than the fact it was a friendly. So that sticks in my mind. And also then afterwards, we beat Crystal Palace 6-0 once in a friend. I think Steve Coppell got sacked. He got sacked as a consequence of conceding 6 at the Den. That was wonderful. They're about the only ones I can think of. I remember back in the 80s, we played foreign opposition, but they were mid-season friendlies, which you just don't get anymore. I remember that we played Servette of Geneva with Karl-Heinz Rummenigge playing for them, and that was at Cold Lane. And we played a Swedish team, Malmo, once, but they weren't pre-seasons; they were mid-season. Strange things. Generally speaking, they're as boring as hell, aren't they? And no one's trying to get injured, and we've fallen into playing like second-tier Spanish teams in recent seasons at the Den, and that don't seem to happen this year. Now it's all we're going to go to Spain and play Northampton. It's going to be, a very strange event.
Unbelievable. Angelo, I'll come to you second. I know your answer. Stephen, are you a fan of pre-season games?
No, they're fitness builders, aren't they, for the players and getting them like match sharpness. But the thing that does it for me is when you get those fixtures where they turn around and they go a Millwall 11. A Millwall 11 will travel
yeah.
to.
What does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah,
Have they
yeah.
got? Is it the ticket office? Is it the board? It just.
Is it me turning up front?
We're playing here from Belvedere at Welling, you know.
You have to.
Millwall 11, random.
You have to do it. You have to do
Lurch
it.
in goal. Yeah.
But it's an opportunity to, as I say, get some fitness back and get ready and set in motion plans and things. But even the first couple of friendlies, you get 2 sets of 11 play, each half. It's not a tactical battle whatsoever. So they got to be done, but I'd like us to play someone better than maybe who we've announced, but I wouldn't be sort of jumping, shouting from the rooftops if we did get a decent pre-season friendly, because ultimately,
are we going to Dartford this year? Are we playing? We normally play Dartford at their ground, don't we?
Yeah.
I don't know if the other Dartford.
No, we don't have them anymore.
I think we've got Bromley away, we've got Sutton away, AFC Wimbledon away, which I'm gonna go to actually, and then Northampton, Spain. So coming to you next, Angela. Angela, I'm not going to ask you if you do or you don't like pre-season friendlies. I know you hate and you detest pre-season friendlies, but can you tell us and the listeners why you hate them so much?
Because they're non-competitive, mate. It's just I think the last one I went to was Jimmy Abdu. Say goodbye to Jimmy Abdu, I think, because obviously he deserved it. But yeah, I just hate them. Joe, can I just quickly read something that's on Millwall's website? About
of course
about
you can,
George Honeyman. Yeah. So this is quite interesting,
absolutely.
right? So this is what they said about George Honeyman.
Does he slag off Nick before he leaves? His party shot is, and fuck Nick. I thought he was my mate. And he slagged me off on the Chat's live show.
What a wanker he was.
Did he? Yeah. What a wanker. What a two-faced wanker. I thought he was my mate. He didn't say it, did he?
No, he didn't say that, mate.
No, okay. Right,
I'm only reading.
You're right, Nick. You're right,
Nick.
Yeah.
So it says here he has chosen to accept a longer-term offer elsewhere, which we fully understand and respect. George leaves with our sincere thanks. So obviously we must have offered him a 1-year deal or something, mate. And Blackpool come, and I feel this has probably happened with Savile as well. We probably
almost certainly say that,
deal.
Angela,
Yeah, 1-year deal for Savile, and he's
security.
gone 2-3 years at Luton.
Yeah.
So
no,
I can't blame the player for doing that.
Good luck to him. We all say, footballer's career is a short career, and you've got to make as much money as you can, because once it's over, you're
gone.
I was talking to. What was that? I was talking to Murray Wallace. I think I said it on a previous show when we did the end of season awards, and I sat with him, and you can see he's mapping out his future. Like he's saying, I've got two years left, and ideally I want to get a team up in Manchester somewhere or nearby. I think he's signed for Huddersfield, isn't he? And and while he's doing that, he's doing his refereeing course on the side, and he wants to be a professional referee after he hangs up his football boots. And money is important, especially when they get to this stage of their career. So if George Honeyman's got a longer contract elsewhere, then fair play to him,
Absolutely.
Well, absolutely.
Also, on that, again, I know it's only a small thing, but it happened before with Lee Gregory, with his family situation. Murray Wallace we signed him from Scunthorpe, didn't we? Obviously, he's from Scotland. Huddersfield is significantly closer to Scotland than what we are. George Honeyman, I believe, was Sunderland, I think. He's
from North East, isn't he? Yeah, Sunderland.
Yeah, around that area. Again, if it's Blackpool, it's not his hometown, but it's significantly closer to where he's from, his home, friends, family. Those kind of things come into it as well. If you're not going to be guaranteed first team football, you're thinking about your future and what you're going to do next. Location does come into it. I wouldn't be surprised to see Sean Hutchinson move closer to the north. He's another one, a Geordie, I believe. So those kind of things come into it as well.
No, I agree. We've got two more topics to discuss before we end the show. So I'm just conscious that we're deep into injury time. We've gone past the 90-minute marks. We're 9 minutes into extra time. So let's try and get through the last two bits. Stay with yourself, Stephen, if you don't mind. I know we touched on this in the past, but I guess it's a rumor that's been bubbling away for weeks now, and there's been strong whispers going around about Turkey Al Sheikh, possibly the Saudi Arabian billionaire want to take over Millwall. We're led to believe that maybe there was a possible offer made, like a percentage of the club that's been turned down by Mr. James Pearson, again allegedly. But interestingly, the room hasn't gone away, and now there's a fresh link out today. I don't know if you've seen it, where there's suggestion that he might have turn his attention towards Bristol City instead. Now, I don't know how legit that is, whether he's just doing it as a way to try and bring Mill back to the negotiation table again, Stephen. What do you make of all that?
I make of it that he's like these owners that you see, Sheffield Wednesday being a prime example of, isn't it great to run a football club, but we don't actually know what we're doing, and inevitably kill the hearts of football clubs. Basically, that's what it screams to me. He doesn't care necessarily what he's doing. He's trying to get a football club. He's trying to get his name in the industry. And look, I think we all are not naive to the fact that perhaps Millwall need a lot more investment than what the Berylsons maybe are willing or able or want to actually pump in. They can keep us, they can sustain us, they can keep us going. They have kept us going, and they've done a wonderful job of doing that. But maybe for that next level, we might need further investment. But for me, if this Saudi guy wants to go and buy Bristol City and leave Millwall behind, I'd say thank you very much. Enjoy your time at Bristol City, and I'm sure the supporters will love it short term, but let's see what happens to them in a few years if that's the case.
Nice one. Angelo, coming to you next. Let's say the money does come in. Would you rather see Mill go global and risk that losing that kind of gritty identity that we have, or keep things how they are and kind of build slowly with the model that we've got in place at the moment?
Do you know what? I'll be brief and short here, Joe. I got excited the first time it was announced, which was like 3 weeks ago, saying. Yeah. Now I just ignore it all, mate. It's just a load of flannel. If one day I turn on my computer and they say, right, he's officially, now in Mill, then I'll get excited. But until then, I don't even pay any attention to it, mate. To be honest with you, yeah, just carry on as we
are. And coming to yourself, Nick. Obviously, what do you make of this? The big money ownership. We see a lot of clubs do it, get taken over. But what would this mean? I guess what kind of club will be if this was to happen or go through? How will it change our club's culture, really?
Yeah, it must. But at the same time, I was coincidentally I was watching a video on YouTube with Mark Fairbrother. He's like a football business interview that he's been put out today, and it's quite interesting. It's a long one; it's about an hour plus, so you can't watch it all in one go. But I fast forwarded to the bit about the fans and the kind of the history of the club, if you want to put it that way, which we all know. All the viewers will know who we are and what has what we've come from, so to speak. Football is a money business, and navigating our way through who we are and our identity, and the kind of grit, as you rightly put it, Joe, and maintaining a course through the modern money-based football world is not going to be an easy thing for anyone to do. The Berylsons, we've been really lucky with the Berylson family, John and now Jimmy or James. Because I was reading about Crystal Palace have just been had a selection of their shares bought by some guy from the New York Jets, and he's got like an awful reputation for being like almost treating the clubs that he owns as toys for his family to play around with. We've been so lucky. I think it sometimes is easy to take it for granted. Not every ownership group are good. Look at the Charlton, what they've been through in recent times with various multi-billionaire types that have come in. I think I'd be very wary of them. Obviously the money would be lovely. It did make me laugh when this rumour first came online, there were people asking if we should have Lamine Lamal up front or Kylian Mbappe. What we're going to do with Mihailo Ivanovic with those two up front, you know. So at the same time, it would have an impact. But if we get promoted to the Premier League, which is the aim of everything we're trying to do, whether it's Saudi or you know, the Berelson's American-based money, we're aiming to get into the Premier League, and whether we like it or not, that will have a big impact on who we are, because the sheer global reach of it means that, as we saw with the Crystal Palace stuff, you know, a few months ago, you can't help become under a global spotlight, which is a very it's not a place we're used to being as a club or as a fan base. So it will have an impact. It's the Saudi thing. I don't know. I mean, I like Angela, I'd take it with a pinch of salt. We'll see. The dealings of rich men are above what the likes of you and I can have any influence on. But I do think it will have an impact on us one way or the other. Promotion will have an impact on us if we get it. This will have an impact on us if it comes to pass. So it's going to be an interesting few years. It's also interesting the fact that people with money from faraway lands see us as having value enough to want to invest in us. So that's an interesting thing, which we've not been used to either in the past. We've always been plucky underdogs, outsiders, you know, big hitters on the day.
Well, that's it. I guess that's why they call us the biggest small club
experience. You know,
the biggest small club in the world. You know, and I guess prime location, being so close to central London as well. You can see the attraction there, can't you, Stato? Like, it's definitely an attraction for most business owners, multi-billionaires who are living abroad at the moment, see us as a prime club takeover.
It's not the club, it's where the club is, and it's the land, and it's the development opportunity. That's the one thing that people have to keep in mind. And I know we all make jokes, and the AI images that come about after we'd been linked with a Saudi takeover was brilliant. And
lurch on a camel for me.
Yeah, it was just absolutely brilliant. But they're
Californian not beautiful people walking around Birmingham.
They're not interested in the club, and ultimately that's where John and hopefully Jimmy, and I think Jimmy is different to his dad, but they did care about the club, or John did, and I think Jimmy does. Whereas someone that comes in with this vast amount of money are just going to go, right, here's 50 million, gets promoted to the Premier League, and if you don't do it, I'm off. That's basically it.
I agree. Last topic, guys. Angela, I'll come to you first this time. Safe standing coming to the Den. So just a quick one worth mentioning. So Mill have officially announced the other day that safe standing will be introduced next season, with installations expected to be completed around October time, I believe. So it will be two sections. I understand there's going to be one in the upper tier of the away end, to the right, and then you got then the other one will be on the upper west stands,
upper east,
for the home fans. Upper east, north, south. Oh yeah, east. You're right.
I think
Docker stand. Yeah, you're right. Up in the east. Obviously, Andrew, it's a big step forward, and apparently it's something that the fans have been crying out for years for this to happen. But Andrew, are you a standing up or are you a sitting down sort of person? I can imagine you're looking forward to sort of sitting in your padded seats, or something a bit more comfier, at a cold blow lane rather than be standing up for 90 minutes watching the game. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, mate, I'm an old man now, so I like to sit down.
With your comfort, yeah.
But I was there in the old cold blow lane where you had to stand up, and it was fantastic. Do you know what I mean? It was like
me
crazy.
too.
Can I ask? Does this affect? Does it affect at all our capacity? Like the attendance, does it go up or down? Or
no, it stays the same.
It stays the same. So basically, as I understand it, I don't know if I'm right in saying this, Stato, but the chairs or the back of the chairs will remain there. So therefore, everyone will stand in line with each chair. But I don't know if the seat's been taken out or something. So everyone will have a place to sit.
Yeah, QPR. So this last season, I ended up in the safe standing seat, whatever you want to call it, at QPR and also at Burnley on the last day. And basically, you do get a seat, but during the game, you don't use it. It's the railings are there and the seats are kind of bolted to them and whatnot. So there is an option to sit down. Obviously, if you're in safe standing, you're going to stand. You'd probably move your ticket otherwise, but it doesn't change the capacity because the seats still remain. It just gives you an opportunity to have the safe standing option.
How many seats is that? Do we know roughly how many away fans, how many home fans they're going to be mixed? I heard a number about 1,000. I don't know if that's true or accurate or not.
It's probably. I mean, I don't know the exact block. Obviously, I don't know how many seats are in the exact blocks that they've mentioned, but basically, they're just putting the railing in. There isn't. There's no science behind it. It's to just put a rail where the seats are, and you can stand a bit easier than if it wasn't there. I actually didn't mind them at QPR and at Burnley that they were, you stand at away games anyway, unless you're 6-0 down or something. But it doesn't change capacity. It's not groundbreaking technology. It's just basically a railing, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, to Chris Brown's comment there, everyone in block 18 stands up anyway. I mean, I sit on the Kitchener stand and I look across the far corner and you see the home fans and the away fans giving it, and they're just constant standing up all day, shouting abuse at each other. So I can only imagine if you're sitting in that section, it could be quite annoying for some fans that want to sit down and watch the game, and they've got fans in front of them shouting all sorts. So maybe they're just trying to keep both the people that like to sit down and people that like to stand up happy by doing this. I can kind of understand the logic. Can you, Nick? You can see the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I mean, I've only been in it. I think it was Queen's Park Rangers, the upper tier. I think it was all right, to be honest with you. It's not like the old days. It's not terracing as we were brought up with in the olden days, but it's certainly a good compromise. I think it's seen as improving the atmosphere. We've never wanted for atmosphere at Millwall, so I think we take it for granted. But when you go to other clubs and they're like really flat as a pancake and dead zones, I think it's seen as a method of increasing the ability of fans to generate some noise, which is a good thing. And I think we've had to put an equivalent amount in our home seats because it's seen as an advantage. So you have 1,000 in the upper east, and then they've got to do 1,000 at the away end. I think also, from what I've read, the angle of the construction at the away end is quite dangerous. If you're standing in the seats, you've got like an angle of and it's a steeper angle. I think because of the constraint of the land there. So I think it's a method of making it safer for those that do stand up. Personally speaking, I think it's a good thing. It's. When I've been in it away at QPR, I thought it was all right personally.
How do you see say standing in Bur's shit corner? I guess sometimes you might have to stand up because there's so much shit on the seats. You've got no choice in the matter, have you?
I generally do stand up. Because I've got my specially chosen seat. I can lean against the two at the angle of the concrete breeze blocks on one side and the downward slope of the side of the stand. I mean, a lot of blokes stand up round unless the game is a real, dead zone. Then people will sit down. But for the most part, it's one of the realities of all seater stadiums. A lot of people do stand up. So if they can deal with that and make it so that you can safely stand up, I think it's a good thing. I've read a few people getting all annoyed about it online. I don't know what there is to get annoyed about really, because it's just making safe people doing what they're doing already. That's just my take.
Nick,
I agree. Angelo?
It's pretty mad that you can't see the away fans, can you, mate, where you are?
No, I can't. No, I'm right up in the angle. I can hear them, but sometimes you can hear them. Mostly you can't. And it always amuses me to see the people shouting abuse at them. Like a sea of fingers and venom going in that direction. A group of people I can't see.
You might see him next season, Steve. Nick, you might see him next season. Nick, when you see them falling over, the safe standing, you see bodies going over the edge. I can see them now.
In moments of high drama, you can get that, can't you? But I mean, listen, I think it's a good thing. I'm sure it's going to be something that gets expanded in time. I hope it will be, because I think it improves the atmosphere of football stadiums. As I said, we've always been really lucky at the Den. We've never wanted for an atmosphere. And although you read online people saying it's not what it was, believe you me, it's a lot better than many or the majority of other stadiums. So we take it for granted a little bit. So I think if anything that improves, that's good for me.
Yeah, cool. Guys, we've reached the end of the show, sadly. A couple of questions in early, which I'm going to show now for Nick, our special guest. Nick Damsgaard, so Jesper Damsgaard, he's on our panelists. Nick, he says, Nick, where did you get the German term Achtung from in Achtung Millwall?
From a U2 album, Jesper, called Achtung Baby, which I quite liked when it came out. And I quite like that kind of title, so I'm going to nick that. I'm going to have Achtung Millwall. I never knew what to do with it until I started the podcast. So it comes from the U2 album, Achtung Baby.
Brilliant. There you go, Jesper. Cheers, Nick. And one other question here from Rob T is, do you still report when you are having a dump or a piss, Nick?
Rob, I'll tend to turn
forever the pro.
Then, mate. I will turn it off. That would be a very, very niche podcast. I'm sure there's a market for that kind of thing out there.
Do you remember that Leslie Nielsen scene in Naked Gun when he gets the radios going? He goes for a toilet. He's in the loo. Do you remember that one, Nick? The old Naked Gun.
Yeah, that's right.
Can you imagine put that?
I turn it off, mate.
There you go.
If I kept you on.
Yeah. There you go, Rob. Hopefully you can sleep well tonight, mate, after that. Okay, so guys, we're just going to end the show now. So, Steve, we're going to come to you first, then Angelo, and give the final words to Nick. So, Stephen, thanks for giving up your time this evening, mate. Is there anything you want to say before we say goodbye to the listeners?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you all, when you do your final words, to give me who you think our first fixture will be on Thursday, and if the listeners want to get in on that as well. Thanks for having me on. As I say, it's great talking about Millwall. The off season can be a little bit tricky, should we say, when there's not much activity, but we always find a way of making it as entertaining and as fun as possible. And I am going to go for Swansea away for the first game of the season when they get released on Thursday.
Okay, there you go. Nice one, Stephen. Cheers, mate. Thanks for being on tonight. Angelo, over to yourself, mate. Anything you want to say to listeners before we say goodbye?
No, thanks. Sorry about my little technical hiccup halfway through. My computer blew up. I don't know what happened there. Not lovely to see Nick, and thanks for coming on, Nick. Like I said earlier, you're highly respected by every Millwall fan, so it's great. It's great to have you on, mate. Yeah, great to have you on.
Thank you, mate. It's very kind.
I'm going to go for Wrexham at home, Stephen.
Wrexham. That'd be
Wrexham
interesting.
at home. We're going to switch it to a live game.
It will be. I guarantee there'll be all sorts there. There'll be Netflix, Prime, they'll all be outside, won't they, in the car park, I'm sure, Nick, over to yourself, mate. And I know you want to talk about something you're doing, a sort of charity.
We're doing a walk
at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell listeners about that before we end it?
Saturday week, we're doing the 21 Bridges walk for the Jimmy Mizzen Foundation, anti-knife crime. The Mizzens are highly respected around the club, and they've every year they do a fundraiser which involves walking from Richmond Bridge, crisscrossing all the bridges of London, finishing up at Tower Bridge, and that's going to take place on Saturday the 5th. I will post out the link for Just Giving for its
please do.
Foundation. And any support will be really appreciated. I hadn't when I said I'd do it, every year it comes around, I always say to the boys on Acton, we ought to do that. We ought to get involved in that. And I've missed it. And then I've done it this year, but I hadn't appreciated it. It's actually about 23 miles walk. It's almost a marathon length walk. And I didn't think it was that far.
I'm glad you're walking, not running it, Nick.
I ain't running it. I'm looking at the district line. I'll take you all the way to the monument. I'll walk over the bridge.
Either that or Uber it, yeah.
But yeah, that's in 2 weeks. So any support, much appreciated out there.
And also if you share the link with us as well, I'm sure we'll get Chris to share it on our social.
I'll send it over. First game of the season, I would love Charlton at home, and I'd love us to beat them by about 3 or 4 goals spread with a Camille Negley hat trick and maybe a late one from Bobby Benicio coming in with a spectacular late effort. So that'd be my choice.
Few quid on that.
Is there? Well, if
get a few quid on that.
the Cosmo first games at Millwall, that'd be one of them, wouldn't it? But Nick,
Absolutely.
I just want to wrap it up. So look, thank you, mate. I know you don't like compliments too much, but I just want to say you're an absolute legend. You're the podmaster. We said it, time in this show that we do respect you, what you do for the Millwall fans, the content you've done over the years is fantastic. A lot of us look up to you, and you really are a legend what you do. Thank you so much for giving your time up so generously this evening. I'm sure the listeners loved having you on, listen to what you had to say as well, and hope we'll get you back on again during the course of the season.
Absolutely.
And get your words of wisdom and do a bit of a review halfway through, if that's okay with you. Is that all right?
It's been a bit of pleasure. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, boys. And thank you, listeners, viewers, in this case.
Excellent.
Arrivederci, Millwall.
Arrivederci. So, guys, until next time, keep it Millwall. No one likes us. We don't care. And that's exactly how we like it. All the best. See you next time. Bye for now.
Cheers.
Hi, it's Steve Morrison here, and you're listening to Chat with Chaps, chatting Millwall, come rain or shine.